Hi, it's me, Melly, with magicwithmelly.com, and this is another intuitive logo design concept sketch debriefing. This is step one in my two-step logo design process. I have set up my logo design process to allow my clients to come in without a lot of commitment, to have an equal energy exchange, and to really set ourselves up for success in terms of opening up to the possibilities and allowing the ideas and the energy and the imagery to kind of come in and form itself. So this concept began with the idea of wings, and that is because my client is the butterfly collective. So butterfly, stereotypically you think of the image of a butterfly, you think of wings, but the wings that came to me initially were almost like angel wings, folded up and over around the form of a person, in kind of a nurturing energy, and really focusing on that sense of, folding in, focusing on center. And so this is my very, very, very first sketch. You can see I've got a lot of things going on here. This is my very, very, very first sketch. You can see a form, kind of person, haphazardly sitting in a lotus position, wings folding up and over. And then I realized that those wings were actually leaves. So my client does a lot with, nature and wants to do herbs and does essential oils and the idea of movement and self-care and nurturing. And so this first idea, and this was literally the image that popped into my mind, and so it's very, very rough. Actually, this is the very, very first sketch. And then this one was, fleshing it out a little bit more. And it began to evolve, but that was the initial direction that things went in. Then I sat down and I started playing with the idea of reaching. The energy of reaching, of stretching was coming to me. And so you can see this whole page of little doodles where I was playing with the idea of, the spiral, reaching up and out, really scooping back to center. The idea of different wings, having kind of two sets of antenna, the idea of collective meaning, generating that energy and mirroring that energy outward. So once we hold that spark, there's a cascade effect. It's the ripple effect. And so the idea of having, more than one set of antenna, with the second set of antenna being part of the wing, was the next bit of concept that I was working on fleshing out. There was more to, this initial bit that I started with. And so, I sit down and I just sketch, and I work with different angles. I flipped the paper over. You can see I was really focusing again on the idea of leaves and then scooping up like roots. So the idea of having this butterfly that is also grounded, that is also growing, that is alive. And again, that grounded energy, because in order to have a collective, it can't be all out here. It really needs to be grounded and focused in reality, right? In practical applications. And that's what my client is aiming to do, is, teaching people about integrating all of these aspects into life, actual practical life. So then I came back, I started playing around with, the idea of different lines. This idea of this lines as movement was coming to me, but it really wasn't feeling like, it felt like I kind of veered off a little too far, and so I came back. And you can see I was playing around a little bit with watercolor. This is based on returning to the sketch, my initial sketch, and this is kind of where we went. So then I started playing with the idea of the essential oil and that drop of oil, that juicy nectar at the center of our being. And then the idea of a person sitting again came in. You can see I started to play with like spirals as the legs. And then I kind of integrated all of this into this figure. And so there's lots of aspects. There's lots of aspects to this. You can see there is the butterfly imagery. Where you have the wings, you've got the antenna, you've kind of got that center source. There's also the idea of this figure, with that juicy nectar at the center, the ability to be flexible and to have that nourishment of the oils at the center. So nourishment in the center, and there's also that glow, that golden glow, adding kind of a quote head for the figure. But then these antennae, as well as being antenna, you can also see that this is like a figure, sitting almost, the legs aren't crossed, but in a sort of, lotus posture or butterfly posture. When you have the soles of your feet together on the ground and your knees are out, that's actually like a butterfly posture. Or you call it doing the butterfly when you're stretching in gym class or whatever you call it. So another echoing of the butterfly idea is sitting in this butterfly posture. We've got the spirals grounding into the earth as well. And at the same time as spiraling down into the earth, almost like the idea of rooting yourself, we've got the arms stretching up. So it's like a figure stretching up in the morning and just reaching up, at the same time grounding down. So we've got that stretch of the energy, that elongation. So we've got the figure, reaching, grounding, nourishment at the center. And then we have these butterfly wings, which are also, leaves, that growth, that sprouting up and out, that spreading. The impact of these practical steps spreads throughout your life, and the vitality, the green. And then the pink, the watercolor that I was using was the gemstone rhodonite. If you've heard of rhodonite, Daniel Smith has some excellent watercolor pigments that are ground up gemstones and minerals. And so Daniel Smith is one of my favorite watercolor brands. But this is the concept that it's all been distilled down to. And I wrote out this little map, which has since fallen on the ground, just, notes to myself in terms of this imagery. So we've got, the wings and the leaves. We've got seated and grounded, stretching, movement, waking up, that stretch that this figure is doing is the kind of stretch you can imagine doing in the morning when you're just stretching up out of bed. So waking up, we are waking up our bodies, we are waking up our senses. The essential oils wake up your senses, the movement wakes up your body and brings you alive again. The idea of the spiraling, legs / roots / wings, those are also the bottom wings, so top wings, bottom wings. Spiraling into center because both of the legs are curling inwards. So again, returning to the center, that nourishment, that oil, that sense of being flexible. Antenna, so we have the arms / antenna, and then down here the legs almost echo antenna as well. And as they're spiraling in, it's almost like they're listening. There's almost like an ear imagery, very, very subtle, but so antenna above and below, connected to the whole, connected above and below as well. And then the idea of, adding in all of those elements seamlessly, the nature, the oils, the grounding, the nourishing, the waking up, the alive, the growth. And that's kind of where we're at. So I appreciate you tuning in and listening to me speak about this process, about which I'm so passionate, because of the ability, again, to receive these images and not have an agenda in terms of where they're going. So you've seen all my sketches and how I started with this very first quick image that popped into my mind. I have to capture it so I remember it, and then making notes to myself about the rabbit hole that I was kind of going down as the imagery came, and then I heard this and I heard this and I heard this and put the pieces together, and then going on to explore, and then it almost became too forced because I began trying, to get the shapes right, etc. And then getting the idea of the leaves and then the grounding spirals, and then realizing that was something to be integrated into this original very first concept. So that's it. And step 2, for those of you who have not participated in this beautiful intuitive process with me before, involves the actual, taking this concept and what do we do with it from there. So I bring it into my graphics software. I will literally, draw the shapes. I will make the geometric patterns. I will add effects. I will work with typography. I'll work with layout. I will work with, is this going to be a flat treatment, or is it going to have depth? Are there going to be glows or gradients? So all of that stuff gets played with in step 2. It's a much longer, more involved process than step 1, which is the foundation. And then at the end of step 2, you have your final beautiful soul essence logo. One of my gifts is that I do see that light and that potential in each of my clients, and I'm able to bring that, essentially that future potential energy of you at your pinnacle back into the now and distill that into a mark that is essentially capturing the essence of you and your potential. So it is my pleasure to be able to share that with all of you. Bye.